champagne glass shattered against the marble floor and Elena Marsh didn't flinch. She'd thrown it herself. Across the penthouse suite, Marcus Chen stood frozen, his phone still pressed to his ear, his eyes wide with something that looked almost like respect. I said no. Elena's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Tell your father, tell the board, tell whoever's on that call that I will not sell my company. Not for 50 million, not for 100 million, not for any amount of money in the world. Marcus slowly lowered his phone. His jaw tightened, and for a moment Elena saw past the polished exterior to something raw underneath. Do you have any idea what you just did? I stopped you from stealing my life's work. That's what I did. Elena crossed her arms, her red dress still perfect despite the rage coursing through her veins. Now get out of my engagement party before I have security throw you out. Your engagement party. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. To James Hartford, the man who's been selling your company secrets to my competitors for the last 6 months. The words hit her like a physical blow. You're lying. Am I? He pulled out his phone, swiped through something, then held it up. Elena's blood turned to ice. There on the screen were emails, bank transfers, confidential documents from her company, all with James's signature. Prove it, she heard herself say, even though her hands were shaking. This could be fabricated. It's not. Marcus's voice softened just slightly. And deep down, you already know that. You've known something was wrong for months, you just didn't want to see it. Elena's mind raced back through the last 6 months. The unexplained absences, James's sudden interest in her business dealings, the way he'd push her to discuss confidential matters over dinner. The merger that had fallen through at the last second when only 3 people knew the terms. Oh God. She sat down hard on the nearest chair. Her chest felt tight. Everything she'd built, everything she'd worked for, betrayed by the man she was supposed to marry in 3 weeks. Where is he? Marcus glanced toward the balcony where the party continued, where 200 guests celebrated an engagement that was apparently built on lies. He left about 20 minutes ago, said he had an emergency call. Elena's laugh came out broken. Of course he did, because you just exposed him and he's probably halfway to the airport by now. Actually, Marcus sat down across from her, and this time his expression was unreadable. He's downstairs in my car. I had my security team intercept him. You what? Elena's head snapped up. I came here tonight to make you an offer for your company. Marcus leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. But I'm not a thief and I'm not like James Hartford. So when my team discovered what he was doing during our due diligence, I figured you deserved to know before you made the biggest mistake of your life. You kidnapped my fiancé. I detained a corporate spy. There's a difference. The absurdity of the situation hit her. Here she was at her own engagement party talking to a man who just kidnapped her fiancé after revealing he was a traitor, and somehow Marcus Chen was acting like this was all perfectly reasonable. Why? Elena stood up, needing to move, needing to think. Why would you tell me this? You could have just bought the information from James, destroyed my company, and taken over. Because that's not how I do business. Marcus stood too, and suddenly the space between them felt smaller. I've been watching your company for 2 years, Elena. What you've built in the sustainable tech sector is remarkable. You're brilliant, innovative, and you don't compromise your values for profit. I don't want to destroy you. I want to work with you. She laughed, sharp and bitter. By exposing my fiancé as a fraud on the night of our engagement party, that's your idea of collaboration. Would you rather have married him, found out after the wedding when he had legal access to everything? The question landed hard. Elena thought about the prenup James had kept pushing her to sign, the one that would have given him 40% of her company in case of divorce. The way he'd insisted on combining their finances. How had she been so blind? I need to see him. Elena's voice came out steady despite the chaos in her chest. I need to hear him say it to my face. Marcus studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right. But Elena, whatever he says, whatever excuses he makes, remember this. A man who truly loved you would never sell your dreams for profit. They took the private elevator down to the parking garage. Elena's heels clicked against the concrete as Marcus led her to a black Mercedes. 2 security guards stood on either side. In the back seat, James Hartford sat with his arms crossed, looking annoyed rather than guilty. This is illegal, James said the moment he saw Marcus. You can't just hold someone against their will. Elena opened the door and slid into the seat beside him. James's expression changed when he saw her. "Babe, thank God, this maniac has lost his mind. He's making crazy accusations." "Are they crazy?" Elena's voice was calm, ice calm. "Tell me right now, James, have you been selling information about my company?" "Of course not." His outrage seemed genuine. "This is Marcus Chen trying to destroy us because he wants to take over your company. He's trying to manipulate you." Elena pulled out her phone and opened the email Marcus had forwarded her. She turned the screen toward James, then explained these. She watched the color drain from his face, watched him calculate whether he could lie his way out, watched the moment he realized he couldn't. Before you continue listening, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now let's keep going. The silence stretched between them, heavy and damning. "Babe," James finally said, his voice taking on a pleading tone, "you have to understand I was in debt, serious debt. The kind where people don't just send collection notices, they send threats. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice." Elena's hands were shaking, but her voice stayed steady. "You chose money over me. You chose betrayal over honesty. You chose to destroy everything I built rather than tell me the truth." "It wasn't like that." "Yes, it was exactly like that." She pulled off her engagement ring and set it on the seat between them. "We're done." James's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake. You think he's better." He pointed at Marcus, who stood outside the car. "He's probably manipulating you right now, playing the hero so you'll sell to him instead." "Maybe." Elena opened the car door, "but at least he had the decency to tell me the truth." She stepped out and didn't look back. Behind her, she heard James start to yell something, but Marcus's security team closed the door, muffling the sound. Marcus was leaning against the concrete wall, giving her space. "You all right?" "No." Elena's voice cracked. "I'm really not all right. I just ended my engagement in a parking garage after finding out the man I loved was selling my secrets. I have a party upstairs full of people expecting a happy couple, and I have no idea what to tell them. And somehow the person offering me comfort is the corporate raider who was trying to buy my company 3 hours ago." Marcus's lips twitched into something almost like a smile. "I prefer the term strategic investor." Elena surprised herself by laughing. It came out half sob, but it was still a laugh. "You're unbelievable. I've been called worse." He pushed off the wall. "Come on, let's get you out of here. What about the party? Let your assistant handle it. Tell them you had an emergency. Tell them the truth. Tell them whatever you want. But right now you need to not be here." He was right. The thought of going back upstairs and facing all those people, all those questions, made her want to throw another champagne glass. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere you can think." Marcus led her to another car, this one a sleek Tesla. His driver was already behind the wheel. They drove through the city in silence. Elena watched the lights blur past, her mind still trying to process everything. 6 months of her life gone. 3 weeks from a wedding that would have been a disaster. How many secrets had James sold? How much damage had been done? "You're thinking too loud." Marcus's voice broke through her spiral. Elena turned to look at him. He'd loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves. In the dim light of the car, he looked different. Less like a corporate shark and more like just a man. "How do you know what I'm thinking?" "Because I can see it on your face." He met her eyes. "You're wondering how bad the damage is. You're calculating what this means for your company. You're running through every conversation you had with James, trying to figure out what was real and what was manipulation." She hated that he was right. "Stop reading my mind." "Can't help it." A slight smile. "I've spent 2 years studying you, remember." That should have sounded creepy, but somehow it didn't. Somehow it sounded like he actually saw her. Not Elena Marsh the CEO, not Elena Marsh the tech innovator, but just Elena. And right now, that was what she needed. The car pulled up to a building Elena didn't recognize. It was modern, all glass and steel, overlooking the harbor. Marcus's apartment turned out to be the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city sprawling below them, lights reflecting off the water. It was beautiful in a cold, expensive way. "Very you," Elena said, stepping inside. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Is that an insult?" "I haven't decided yet." He laughed, and the sound surprised her. It was genuine, warm, completely different from his boardroom persona. "Drink? God, yes." He poured them both whiskey, expensive stuff that probably cost more than her first car. They stood at the windows, the silence between them oddly comfortable. "I'm sorry," Marcus said finally. "About James, about ruining your party, about all of it." "You're not sorry." Elena took a sip. "You're calculating how to turn this situation to your advantage." "Fair." He didn't deny it. "But I can be both calculating and sorry. They're not mutually exclusive." She studied his reflection in the glass. "Why did you really tell me? You could have kept this information, used it as leverage. Because watching you marry that man would have been a mistake I couldn't let happen." There was something in his voice that made her turn to face him. Something raw. "Why would you care?" "Because contrary to what you might think," Marcus met her gaze steadily, "I'm not actually soulless. And because you remind me of why I got into this business in the first place. Before it was all about profit margins and hostile takeovers. You still believe in something." Elena felt something shift in her chest. This close, she could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could see the exhaustion he hid behind his polished exterior. "You don't know me well enough to say that, don't I?" Marcus set down his glass. "You started your company 7 years ago with nothing but a prototype and a dream. You turned down 3 acquisition offers that would have made you rich because you refused to compromise on your environmental standards. You pay your employees above market rate, and you've donated millions to clean energy research. You're either the most principled CEO in the tech sector or you're terrible at capitalism. Maybe both." She smiled despite everything. "And that's what you learned in 2 years of studying me. That and the fact that you take your coffee black, you work until 3 in the morning most nights, you're allergic to shellfish, and you have a scar on your left shoulder from a rock climbing accident when you were 19. Elena's breath caught. "That's not studying, that's stalking. Call it thorough due diligence." But his voice had gone quieter. "I wanted to understand what made you different. What made your company worth pursuing when I could buy a dozen others with less effort? And what did you conclude? That you're either going to change the world or drive yourself into the ground trying." Marcus took a step closer, and I couldn't decide which outcome I wanted to prevent more. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Elena knew she should step back, should put distance between herself and this man who was both her potential savior and potential destroyer. Instead, she stayed exactly where she was. "I'm not selling my company to you. I know. Then what do you want from me?" Marcus was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. "Honestly, I have no idea. For the first time in my career, I don't have a strategy. You've completely derailed my plans." "Good." Elena's voice came out barely above a whisper. "You derailed my entire life tonight. Fair's fair." They stood there, the tension stretching between them like a wire about to snap. Then Marcus's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. "You should get that. It might be important. Everything's important." He pulled out his phone, glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened. "What is it?" "James Hartford just posted on social media." Marcus turned the phone toward her. Elena felt her stomach drop. There on the screen was a photo of her and Marcus in the parking garage, taken from an angle that made it look intimate. The caption read, "The truth about why Elena Marsh really ended our engagement. Sometimes the corporate raider wins. That son of a..." Elena grabbed her own phone. It was exploding with notifications. Messages from friends, from board members, from investors, all asking the same questions. Her assistant had called 6 times. The media was already picking up the story. "He's trying to destroy your reputation." Marcus's voice was tight with anger. "Make it look like you were cheating, like the breakup was your fault. This is damage control. He's cutting his losses and taking you down with him." Elena's mind raced. This was bad. This was catastrophically bad. Her company's stock would tank tomorrow. Investors would pull out. Everything she'd built could collapse because of one lie spread across the internet. Unless, she looked at Marcus. Unless what? Marcus was watching her and she could see him thinking, calculating. "Unless we control the narrative." "How?" Elena's heart was pounding. "By telling the truth, all of it. We expose what James was doing, show the evidence of corporate espionage, and explain exactly why you ended the engagement. But that still leaves you and me in a parking garage looking." She gestured at the photo like that. "So we own it." Marcus set down his phone. "We tell them, yes, I came to your engagement party. Yes, I showed you evidence that your fiancé was a traitor. Yes, you left with me because you needed space to process. We make you the victim and the hero. We make him the villain, and what does that make you? Whatever you need me to be, the corporate raider with a conscience, the unexpected ally. His voice dropped lower. Or we could tell them something else entirely. Like what? Like the truth. That I've been fascinated by you for 2 years. That watching you from a distance stopped being enough months ago. That I came to that party tonight not just to make a business offer, but because the thought of you marrying James Hartford made me want to put my fist through a wall. Elena's breath caught. You can't say that. Why not? Because it's crazy. Because we barely know each other. Because 12 hours ago you were trying to buy my company and I threw a champagne glass at you. And yet here we are. Marcus moved closer until there was barely any space between them. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me this is all just business and shock and gratitude for being saved from a bad marriage. Tell me and I'll back off right now. She should tell him exactly that. Should push him away and handle this crisis alone like she'd handled everything else in her life. Should not under any circumstances get involved with a man who'd literally studied her for 2 years like she was a business acquisition. But when she opened her mouth, what came out was, I can't. Can't tell me or can't deny it. Both. The word was barely a whisper. Everything about this is a terrible idea. Probably. His hand came up to cup her face, gentle, giving her every chance to move away. But I'm done pretending I'm here just for business. The kiss was inevitable. Had been since the moment he'd walked into her engagement party and blown up her entire life. It was soft at first, questioning, and then it deepened into something desperate. 2 years of watching, months of knowing something was wrong, one night of having everything fall apart, it all combusted into this moment. When they broke apart, Elena was shaking. We can't. We just did. Marcus's voice was rough. And unless you're about to tell me that was a mistake, I'm going to do it again. It was a mistake. Then why are you still holding on to me? Because Elena realized her fingers were twisted in his shirt. I don't know how to do this. How to want something that makes no logical sense. How to trust someone when I just discovered my fiancé was lying to me for months. How to let myself fall when I'm barely holding my company together. Then don't think. Marcus's forehead pressed against hers. For once in your life, Elena Marsh, don't calculate the risks. Just feel. So she did. She kissed him again, harder this time, letting 2 years of exhaustion and loneliness and pressure pour out. Marcus met her intensity with his own, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. Her phone buzzed insistently. Then his. Then both together in a discordant symphony of crisis. They broke apart, both breathing hard. Reality, Marcus said wryly, always terrible timing. Elena laughed and it felt good, felt real. We need to deal with this, I know. He didn't let go of her, but first I need to know. Is this real, this thing between us? Or is it just adrenaline and revenge and bad timing? She should give him the safe answer. Should tell him they'd figure it out later after the crisis passed. Instead, she found herself saying, I don't know what this is. But I know that in the middle of the worst night of my life, you're the only thing that feels right. That's good enough for me. Marcus kissed her forehead. Now let's go destroy James Hartford's credibility and save your company. They spent the next 3 hours in Marcus's home office, building their case. Elena called her lawyer, her PR team, and her assistant. Marcus brought in his own team, including a cybersecurity expert who could verify the digital trail of James's betrayal. By 3 in the morning, they had a strategy. At 6, they'd release a statement with evidence. At 8, Elena would hold a press conference. By noon, the narrative would shift from scandalous affair to corporate espionage and betrayal. You should get some rest, Marcus said as dawn started to break over the harbor. The press conference is in 5 hours. I can't sleep. Elena was running on pure adrenaline now. If I stop moving, I'll fall apart. Then don't stop. He pulled her to her feet. Come on, where are we going? You'll see. Marcus led her up a flight of stairs to the rooftop. The city was waking up below them, the sky turning from black to deep purple to pale pink. Wind whipped around them, cold and sharp. Why are we up here? Because sometimes when everything's falling apart, Marcus moved to stand beside her at the railing, you need to remember how big the world is. How your crisis, no matter how catastrophic it feels, is just one moment in one city on one day. Tomorrow the sun will rise again. Next week this will be old news. Next year you'll look back and realize this was just a chapter, not the whole story. That's surprisingly philosophical for a corporate raider. I contain multitudes. She laughed and leaned against him. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders and they stood there watching the sunrise, two people who should have been enemies finding something like peace in the chaos. Marcus, thank you for telling me about James, for helping with all this, for reminding me why I started my company in the first place. He turned to face her, which was to build something that mattered, to prove I could succeed on my own terms, to change the world even if just a little bit. She met his eyes. I'd lost sight of that somewhere along the way. Let me help you find it again. This isn't just about an acquisition anymore, is it? No, his voice was certain. This is about partnership, real partnership where we both win, where we build something together that's bigger than either of us alone. And if I say no, then I'll respect that. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. But I hope you won't, because I think we could be extraordinary together. Before she could respond, his phone alarm went off. Time to get ready. Elena nodded. The moment of peace was over. Now came the hard part. The press conference was held in the lobby of Elena's company headquarters. Every major news outlet was there, cameras ready, reporters shouting questions. Elena stood at the podium in a navy suit, looking every inch the powerful CEO. Marcus stood off to the side, a silent show of support. She told the truth, all of it. Showed the evidence of James's betrayal, explained the timeline, laid out the facts in clear, uncompromising terms. Then she addressed the photo. Yes, I left my engagement party with Marcus Chen. Yes, he was the one who brought this information to my attention. And yes, in the darkest moment of my life, when I discovered the man I loved had betrayed everything I built, Marcus was there. Not as a corporate raider, not as a competitor, but as someone who believed I deserved to know the truth before I made the biggest mistake of my life. She paused, letting her words sink in. Some of you will question his motives. Some of you will say this was manipulation, a power play, a way to get to my company. Maybe it started that way, I don't know. But what I do know is that Marcus Chen showed me more integrity in one night than James Hartford showed me in 18 months. And I will not apologize for choosing truth over comfortable lies. The questions came fast and furious after that. Elena answered them all with calm precision. Yes, the engagement was over. No, she would not be pressing charges because the evidence was better used to warn other companies. Yes, her company was stable and all current projects would continue as planned. And the final question, shouted from the back, are you and Marcus Chen involved romantically? Elena glanced at Marcus. He gave her a slight nod, leaving the decision entirely to hers. We're exploring a partnership. Elena's voice was steady, both business and personal. And before you write your headlines about the corporate raider who won the girl, understand this. I'm not a prize to be won. I'm a CEO who makes her own choices, who controls her own narrative, and who will not be diminished by anyone's story but my own. The room erupted, but Elena was done. She stepped away from the podium, walked straight to Marcus, and took his hand. They left together through the side entrance, cameras flashing behind them. In the car, Elena finally let herself breathe. That was either brilliant or career suicide. Marcus squeezed her hand. Brilliant, definitely brilliant. Her phone was already blowing up with messages. Her board wanted an emergency meeting. 3 investors wanted calls. Her mother had texted 17 times, but there were other messages too, from employees supporting her, from other female CEOs praising her honesty, from industry leaders offering partnerships. The tide was turning. You did it, Marcus said quietly. You controlled the narrative. We did it. Elena corrected, I couldn't have done this without you. So what now? Now she leaned back against the seat. Now I have about 6 hours of damage control meetings. Then I need to reassure my team. Then I should probably call my mother before she has a heart attack. Then I need to figure out what the hell I'm doing with my life. Marcus smiled. Sounds like a full schedule. When do I see you again? Elena turned to look at him. This man who derailed her life and somehow made it better in the process. This man who saw her not as a conquest but as an equal. This man who made her feel both terrified and exhilarated. Dinner. Tonight, my place, I'll cook, you cook. Don't sound so surprised. I contain multitudes, remember. His expression grew serious. Elena, I meant what I said. This isn't a game to me. I know. She leaned over and kissed him softly. And that terrifies me more than James's betrayal ever could. Because if this is real, if what I'm feeling is real, then I'm risking more than just my company. I'm risking my heart. Then we'll both be terrified together. Marcus cupped her face. But I promise you this, I will never lie to you. I will never sell your secrets. I will never make you choose between your dreams and our relationship. And if you decide this is moving too fast, if you need space, if you want to go back to just business, I'll respect that. Even though it will kill me. You really are dangerous. She whispered completely. He kissed her again, but so are you. The car pulled up to her office building. Reality was waiting, a dozen crises that needed her attention, a company that needed reassurance, a future that was suddenly uncertain and terrifying and full of possibility. I have to go. Elena said, not moving. I know. Neither of them let go. Finally, Marcus pulled back. Go save your company. I'll see you tonight. Elena stepped out of the car, then turned back. Marcus? Yeah. Thank you for derailing my life. It needed derailing. She laughed and headed into the building. Behind her, she could hear the car pull away. But she could still feel his presence, still feel the ghost of his kiss, still feel the terrifying hope blooming in her chest. The next 6 hours were brutal. The board meeting was tense, with half the members questioning her judgment and the other half surprisingly supportive. 3 investors did pull out, but 2 new ones reached out within hours. Her team rallied around her, loyal and fierce. By late afternoon, Elena was exhausted but oddly energized. She'd survived. More than that, she'd taken control. She'd refused to be a victim, refused to let James's betrayal define her, refused to apologize for wanting something real in the middle of the chaos. At 7, she left the office and drove to her apartment. On the way, she stopped at a market, picking up ingredients without really thinking about what she was making. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Should I bring wine? Elena smiled. Bring yourself, that's enough. When he arrived at 8, she was in her kitchen wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair down, no makeup. The real her, not the CEO, not the public figure, just Elena. He stood in the doorway, still in his suit, but with his tie gone and his sleeves rolled up, and looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Hi, Marcus said softly. Hi. She walked over to him. This is crazy, right? We're crazy. Absolutely insane. He pulled her close. Is that going to stop you? No, she kissed him, not even a little bit. They made dinner together, or tried to. It mostly involved Elena burning the pasta while Marcus distracted her with kisses. They ended up ordering takeout and eating it on her balcony, watching the city lights below. Tell me something real, Elena said, leaning against his shoulder. Something nobody else knows. Marcus was quiet for a moment. My father wanted me to be a doctor, wanted me to save lives in a noble, respectable way. When I chose business, chose this ruthless world of acquisitions and hostile takeovers, he didn't speak to me for 2 years. He died before we reconciled. Every deal I make, every company I acquire, I wonder if he'd be proud or disappointed. Elena took his hand. I think he'd be proud. You're brilliant at what you do. And tonight you did save a life. Mine. That's different, is it? You gave me the truth when I needed it most. You stood by me through the fallout. You made me feel seen and valued and strong. That's more heroic than any merger. Marcus turned to face her. You're going to ruin me, Elena Marsh. You're going to make me want things I've never wanted before. Stability, partnership, something real. Good. She kissed him. Consider us even. They talked until midnight, sharing stories and secrets and fears. Elena told him about starting her company with nothing, about the years of failure before the breakthrough, about the pressure of being a woman in tech and the constant need to prove herself. Marcus told her about the loneliness of success, about relationships that never lasted because everyone wanted something from him, about the exhaustion of always being the shark in the room. And somewhere between the stories and the kisses and the comfortable silences, Elena realized she was falling fast and hard for a man who should have been her enemy but had somehow become her anchor. When Marcus finally left at 2 in the morning, Elena stood in her doorway watching him go. He turned back before getting in the elevator. Tomorrow, she smiled, and the day after that, and the day after that. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. The elevator doors closed and Elena went back inside her apartment. It was quiet, empty, but it didn't feel lonely. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt hopeful. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Already missing you. Is that too much too soon? Elena typed back. Way too much. I love it. Three dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a message came through. I'm falling for you, Elena. And it's terrifying and exhilarating, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But I wanted you to know. Elena's heart stuttered. She typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on the truth. I'm falling too, and I'm done being afraid of it. Good. Because tomorrow I'm taking you to meet my mother and she's going to hate you. Elena laughed out loud. Can't wait. She climbed into bed, exhausted and happy and still scared but no longer alone. Outside her window, the city sparkled with possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Her company still had wounds to heal. The media would still be circling. James would probably try more attacks, but Elena had something she hadn't had before. She had truth. She had integrity. She had a team that believed in her. And she had Marcus, a partnership that was both professional and personal, built on honesty and respect and the terrifying leap of faith that came with letting someone see all of you, flaws and fears and fierce ambition, and choosing to stay anyway. Before you go, if you loved this story of Elena and Marcus finding something real in the chaos, do me a favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me which moment resonated with you most, and subscribe so you never miss another story. These tales of unexpected love and second chances are what keep this channel going, and your support means everything. Now I'll see you in the next one where another story of love and redemption awaits. Her phone buzzed one more time. Marcus, sleep well, Elena Marsh. Tomorrow we start building something extraordinary. She smiled in the darkness and typed back her final message of the night. Tomorrow and every day after. Sweet dreams, Marcus Chen. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Elena Marsh fell asleep not calculating risks or planning strategies or worrying about the next crisis. She fell asleep simply happy, wrapped in the knowledge that sometimes the best things in life were the ones you never saw coming, the ones that derailed your carefully laid plans and forced you to rebuild from scratch, the ones that reminded you that success without connection was just an empty trophy, and that being vulnerable enough to let someone in was the bravest thing you could do. Outside, the city never slept. But inside her quiet apartment, Elena finally did, dreaming of boardrooms and balconies, of hostile takeovers that turned into love stories, of a future that was uncertain and terrifying and more beautiful than any plan she could have made on her own. Before you go, if you loved Elena and Marcus's story of finding truth and love in the chaos, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button if this story gave you all the feels. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Was it the engagement party confrontation, the rooftop sunrise, or that final text exchange? And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of unexpected love, corporate drama, and second chances. Your support keeps these stories coming, and honestly, your comments and reactions are what make creating these worth it. Now, I've got another incredible story waiting for you in the next video.